Remember to subscribe and hit the notification button to keep up to date with our latest videos.
The silence fades into the night. Coyotes sing at the moonlight. These open highways are calling our name, and now it's time for us to escape. Feel the wind touch our face. Let's take a spin to a foreign place. These open highways are calling our name, and now it's time for us to escape.
Hey guys, today is a very exciting day here on Roads Untraveled. Here in front of me is the updated 2019 Mazda MX-5 RF GT. It is currently the most lightweight vehicle you can buy brand new here in North America. Let's get the top down and go for a drive. All right, so what is new with the 2019 Mazda MX-5 RF? So this is the GT model I'm driving right now, and it also has the Grand Sport package, fully spec'd out. This is as expensive as a Mazda MX-5 can get, and I'm gonna go through all the features and see how it drives on the road. So the first major difference with all 2019 Mazda MX-5, and specifically the RF, is that newly updated 2-liter SKYACTIV naturally aspirated inline-4 that sits up front there. Now previously, a lot of the complaints with this generation Mazda Miata, and let's be honest, every single other generation Mazda Miata, was that they were too slow and too little power. Mazda heard your call, and they answered by upping the horsepower by almost 30 extra horsepower. They changed a bunch of engine components, so it now revs to 7,500 RPM versus the 2018 model only revved to 6,800 RPM. And that's thanks to real world, like kind of hot rod hardware changes that Mazda's actually implemented under the hood in this 2-liter engine. That includes higher lift on the exhaust side of the camshaft, I believe longer duration as well, slightly changed exhaust porting, intake porting, lighter weight pistons, and connecting rods as well. So there's a bunch of extra components that are working hard for you to get that extra 30 or so horsepower under the hood for a grand total of 181 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. Another great thing is that torque number is of course raised, but more importantly, it comes on lower down in the RPM range. Instead of having a 4,400 RPM peak torque position in the revs, it is now lowered to 4,000 RPM. You have all of the torque. And then peak power is exactly at 7,000 RPM. So if you bring it to 7,500 RPM redline, and then you shift up a gear and keep going, you're right back into power. I mean, torque, basically you're right back into peak torque, and that carries you to peak power. It's a really much needed improvement in this vehicle, and I mean, let's be honest, I think this is the best MX-5 that Mazda's ever made. Some would argue that the NA Miata, the original 91 Miata, has a little bit more raw driving dynamics, and I would agree it has hydraulic power steering instead of this more modern electric power steering. But we're not here to compare a 1990s MX-5 that you can get for like $6,000 or $7,000 to this, a brand new vehicle, which as tested, hold your breath for this one, is priced at $49,500 Canadian. So I believe that's just less than $40,000 US. Now, yes, this has basically every option in the book. It has this leather trim in here, nice stitching. It's got the body color trim on the inside here, which I absolutely love, especially in a roadster like this. It kind of, blurs the line between exterior and interior when you're driving. I kind of like it. It's a very unique car, and this car kind of stands on its own completely in the marketplace. There's nothing really else that can compete with it. So, other stuff you get. Obviously, with the RF, you get the retractable folding hardtop. This one is spec'd with the Grand Sport package, like I said. So you get the contrasting piano black hardtop, which is nice. And you get these lovely OEM BBS wheels, 17-inch gunmetal wheels in that package, as well as upgraded brakes from Brembo, and those calipers are red front and rear. Like I said, if you are the type of person who is not just buying the MX-5 to look cool in a roadster and, take it to your cabin on the weekend or something, I don't know the scenario, whatever your life calls for. If that's not all you're doing with it, and you might want to take it to an autocross or a track day, or actually come to the back roads just for the sake of driving, take the long way home, these upgrades with the Brembo brakes and the BBS wheels might be worth it. It might actually be worth the money. So I beg you guys to really dive into the pretty much endless options that the MX-5 RF comes with, and see for yourself what's worth it and what's not, depending on what type of driving you're doing. But the main thing is, when you get the MX-5 RF GT, you're getting a lot of good stuff stock standard that just kind of makes a really good driving experience. Now, right off the bat, I've been driving this car for a couple of days now. I've immediately fallen in love with the MX-5 again. Some of you guys know I own a second generation MR2 Turbo. I am a small sports car, two-seater kind of person as far as a dedicated driver's car goes. And this pretty much has everything you want. Mazda says it's a front mid-engine layout. So technically speaking, the engine sits just behind the front axle. I'm gonna pop the hood. Make sure you're not screwing around, Mazda. It's actually a front mid-engine car, a true front mid-engine car, something like the SLS AMG was. But that's the basic idea. You have near 50-50 weight distribution. This car is extremely balanced out of the box. You really don't have to do anything to this car. It's a really fun package, and honestly, I think for a brand new car, I think it's pretty much the most fun car you can get for under $50,000 Canadian. That's 7,500 RPM red line. It just goes on forever. It is, yeah, it's a blast to drive. The MX-5 is no longer a slow car, folks. Every single year of the Miata up until this model year, this RF right here, was a slow car. The Miata has now finally crested over that slow car threshold, and it is just, it's not a fast car, don't get me wrong. It has not crested into that fast car category, but it doesn't need to. It is pretty much perfect, at least in terms of power levels and torque. You actually have usable torque now, and it's lower down. You don't have to always constantly shift down just to pass someone on the freeway. You can stay in fourth gear if you're around kind of 3,000-4,000 RPM, and you've got enough torque. It's a good feeling. I think that's the first time a factory Miata has really come with plenty enough torque for the road. So a lot of these options that you get with the RF GT are not actually available with the 6-speed auto, which is good. Good on you, Mazda. If you buy this car with an automatic, probably just go jump off a bridge already. That's a terrible life decision. If your excuse is that you don't know how to drive manual, learn to drive in this car. It's a great car to drive, and I promise you, you will not regret it, okay? So stuff like the brakes, I believe, and these gunmetal wheels are only available in the manual transmission version of this vehicle. Now they don't limit the engine, the new engine, to the manual transmission. So when you get the auto, you do still get that highly upgraded 2-liter engine up front. But again, if you're buying this car just to have the top down in a small, compact, cool-looking vehicle, you don't need the manual, you don't need the extra braking power, obviously, because you're in an automatic, you don't really care about driving. To me, that's what it tells me. If you buy an automatic MX-5, you don't care about actually driving the car and interacting with it. Another thing you're not going to experience with the auto is this new flywheel that Mazda has put in here, which basically combines a really lightweight flywheel that would traditionally be a little bit more chattery and noisy, especially at higher RPMs in a car like this, with a heavier, more forgiving flywheel. And you have both of those with basically like a friction plate in between, or something like that. I don't know the exact science behind it. But it basically just makes the driving experience very easy to rev match, and the engine's very quick to rev, like you would want with a lightweight flywheel, but it's also very forgiving, as a MX-5 should be. The shifter feels awesome. It's in a great position. This car is made for smaller people. It's made for shorter people. Even myself, like, I'm just barely below the top of the roof here, which is kind of surprising, but driving position's awesome.
Now to start off with, I just want to say for the record, I've never been a huge Mazda Miata fan. That being said, the short time that I've had with this MX-5 RF has started to sway me in a little bit of a different direction. Now this car is very small. Comparing it to Marcus's MR2, it has less storage space than that. Now I barely fit in the car as it is, and I honestly don't think I would be able to drive it properly without the roof down. So that being said, I don't think I would ever buy this car without the retractable hardtop roof. It definitely is a huge selling point for me. Now, recently in our 2019 Mazda 3 GT review, we explored their new keyless entry system. This is one of the features I was kind of disappointed with and hoped that Mazda would have actually included it in their MX-5. So with the Mazda 3, you're able to basically touch the handle anywhere, and as long as you have the key in your pocket, the keyless entry system would allow you to unlock the car and get in. Unfortunately, with the MX-5, they've kept the button, so you're looking for that little black dot in order to unlock it. I mean, it's a small thing, but after Mazda absolutely nailed it with the Mazda 3, I was just hoping they would have included that in this car. Now, as I was saying, this is a very small car. So right now, the seat is all the way back, and this is a comfortable driving position for me. If you're any taller than me, you're not gonna really like this car very much. I'm 6'1", and as of right now, my visibility is basically cut off by a third. Without the ability to actually put the top down, your visibility is cut off by quite a bit, and it makes the whole driving experience less comfortable. So that being said, this is a dedicated sports car. It's not made to be hauling around family or going shopping. This has one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to drive. What's nice is you're not sitting too low to the point where you do have like huge blind spots beside you, so you have good visibility all the way around. And especially with the top down, you can see basically everything around you. I think it looks absolutely awesome. It's very simplistic. You're not surrounded with a whole bunch of buttons and things that you don't really need. It's very driver focused. So you have all the essentials right in front of you, easy to find. The brown leather looks amazing, and it adds this very luxurious feel to it. They have what they call their Kodo stitching package on this car, and I really love what they've done with the cross-stitching effect. The seats are super comfortable. This car is definitely made for shorter people or smaller people overall, but out of anything else, I would say these seats are absolutely perfect. They hug you in the right spots. You're not sliding around in corners. Now, unlike a lot of people, I actually really like and prefer leather seats. I find cloth seats are way harder to maintain and clean. So the biggest downside with leather seats though is generally you slide around a little bit more when you're in the corners. But with this design of this seat has removed any wiggle room you have, and it really hugs you nicely. Something they've actually installed in the headrests are Bose speakers. And how it works is when you're playing music, you'll actually hear a little bit from behind your head, but the main purpose of these speakers is when you're making a phone call, you have the volume directed right into your ear. So even with the top down, you're not struggling to hear who you're trying to talk to on the phone. Now, I have to say, I absolutely love what Mazda has done with the steering wheel. I think it's a good size, fits good in the hand, but one thing I have to say that I'm not a big fan of is the way they've laid out the volume buttons. So what they've done is they have put the volume up and volume down on the edge of the button, but then if you push it straight in, it will activate the voice recognition system. Now this is extremely annoying because especially when you're behind the wheel and you're driving, the last thing you want is to turn that system on and then have to start fumbling around to figure out how to exit that before you can actually go back to your music. Now again, this car being a dedicated driver's car, you don't have much storage here at all. There's no glove box, but instead they've given you this little pocket here that you can put some change or your phone. They've given you this little tiny cubby here, and they put a lock box right behind the armrest. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for a car that you want to take on a long road trip, because realistically, you're not getting much inside of here. Now, I really like what Mazda has done with the dash layout. I think that having the tack right in the center, nice and big, easy to see, looks great. They actually have recommended gear changes that'll tell you how to drive most efficiently and when to shift. And also it's a cool feature that I haven't actually seen in other cars before is this temp gauge switch. So what this does is it resets the point of interest of the actual temp gauge, bringing the middle down to the lowest part, so all you see is the high end. Now, one thing that kind of took me by surprise, and it's worth saying, is when you have the top down and you try to use your windshield washer fluid, it'll actually come and spray you and give you a shower. It's a terrible design, and it absolutely gets you soaked. So, come on Mazda, you can do a little bit better than that. The last thing I do want to say is for a lot of drivers' cars, they don't have cup holders at all. Well, with this MX-5, Mazda's actually found the middle ground, so to speak. So you do have cup holders, but they're removable. So as you can see, you can actually take them right out, and if you want to give your passenger a little bit of extra leg room, you can pop it out and then put it right behind you. And by doing that, you can actually free up some space when you're not using them. Now, one thing Mazda has done consistently well with their 2019 lineup is with their infotainment system. It's very responsive and there's no lag time going through menus. Now, they've actually removed the touchscreen feature with the Mazda 3 model. But that being said, I do not like the amount of fingerprints that actually end up showing up on the screen. Especially when you turn the car off, you can really start to see how much smudge marks are actually there already. Now, we filmed the Hyundai Elantra recently, and their touchscreen didn't seem to have that problem. So I think Mazda needs to work on the materials they're using to help avoid that in the future. All right, so let's hop back in the car with Marcus and let's finish up the review.
The view out of the hood is one of my favorite things about this Mazda. Traditionally, obviously a nice traditional sports car shape is a long nose, a short deck lid back there, and nice curves up front. You could really see the wheel arches up front. You know exactly where the front wheels are placed in the corner when you're driving, and the rev matching's easy. I think any dummy could really get in this car with like even limited manual transmission experience and really have a lot of fun. So it is a 6-speed manual, and you do get very good fuel economy. We've easily been hitting these targets, in some cases actually coming in a little bit under and sipping less fuel than is suggested by Mazda, which is very nice. That's always welcome. And again, like here, 65 kilometers an hour, we're turning like 1600 RPM. So you do get very good fuel economy, and of course it's naturally aspirated, so that aids in that very low fuel consumption as well. So this one we're driving right now is spec'd in the ceramic metallic paint code. I love it. It really reminds me of Nardo Gray from Audi. It's really awesome. It's kind of like an off-white color, but it's got a little bit of gray, kind of metallic. Frankly, I love it. I'm in love with this color, especially with the contrasting stitching and red leather here. It's a really nice package. I mean, if you're gonna go all out with an MX-5, if you're gonna spend this kind of money on a brand new car, you may as well just go all the way. This color in combination with those gunmetal wheels and the red brake calipers is like, it's awesome. I think it looks better than in black or like in a brighter color like red or blue. I really love it. It's kind of aggressive. Mazda's also done a number of changes to the exhaust note of this car because, of course, here in 2019, it's few and far between to find a manufacturer that actually cares about the driving experience as much as Mazda does. And like I said, this is in a segment all of its own, pretty much. And they've gone ahead and made the exhaust note specifically more bassy than in previous models. So you really do get like a good grunt, and it doesn't like pop or anything. There's no crackles back there. But it does kind of have like a little bit of like you get a couple extra noises. I don't know what to call them. That you can just faintly hear back there. It's just enough exhaust noise. I don't wish it was any louder. I really don't. And with the top up, it's still got fairly good road noise. If you're looking for the most comfortable daily driver, this is not it. It's a stiff car. Like, this is a sports car, especially when you get the RF GT. I believe it is a little bit stiffer than the stock model for obviously the heavy cornering, but the rotation is so good. That's the thing. You also get the LSD as standard with the RF GT, which every MX-5 should have. There is no option to get the LSD with the automatic model. Like I said, no longer slow, not fast. If you know the MX-5, you know that this is not like a buckled down, very tight, like they're not trying to minimize body roll here. They're trying to maximize driver involvement, driver engagement, and like smiles per gallon, as David Patterson would say. And they've pretty successfully done that here. Like, it's a little bit stiffer than I remember the 2017 or 2016 MX-5 I drove, but it's still got enough playful body roll and like dive and pitch where you really can feel the LSD working. You can feel the limit of grip. It's only 205 section tires all the way around, so you can still feel the tires screeching when you approach the limit of grip. It's, like I said, honestly, for a brand new car, for a fun factor, under $50,000 Canadian or $40,000 US, you're gonna have a hard time beating this, just in terms of a raw, fun sports car. Honestly, it doesn't have the most power. You can definitely get, if your idea of fun, it definitely doesn't have the most power. Like, if your idea of fun is just the most power you can have, there are way more powerful cars for $50,000 Canadian. But if like the whole all-round driving experience and like flowing through the corners and feeling the steering and shifting is your definition of fun, which it is mine, the whole package, everything together, just not one thing, this is pretty much unbeatable for the price. Even though it is quite expensive, I will admit, it is very, very expensive when you just look at those raw numbers. Another thing that Mazda has done extremely successfully, other than make this car like rotate pretty outstanding, like the back end follows the rear end so well. Oh man. You got just enough body roll and dive. It's almost as if as soon as you compress the suspension on entry into a corner, it immediately knows like, okay, I'm gonna help you around this corner now. And it feels really good. It feels really good. Mazda, you have done well. I mean, props for you for sticking with this chassis and really squeezing every ounce of performance and fun out of it as possible. I love that. So like I said, even second gear, 7,500 RPM, it's fun. It's not slow, it's not fast though either. It almost feels as if it has rear steer. That's what this is kind of feeling like. I've driven a couple of older Skyline GTRs with rear steer still activated from the factory, and this has a similar feeling. It's really cool. Could also be just a small wheelbase, but. So thank you, Mazda Canada, for tossing us the keys to this gorgeous 2019 Mazda MX-5 RF GT for the week. I've had a lot of fun. A lot of my friends have had a lot of fun riding shotgun as well, showing them the MX-5 experience, trying to keep the sports car experience alive, you know, spread the love. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit me up on Instagram at Roads Untraveled and keep up to date with what we're shooting and what we're filming and various trips we're going on. Check out our Roads Untraveled store where you can find our brand new line of engine code jet tags. We've got a bunch there. Take a look. I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. We'll see you next time.